I'm Kerry Fink with Helping Seniors of Brevard, and welcome to Helping Seniors Updates. This is a podcast where we try to inform, connect, and just make sure you have access to good resources that are going to help you as you develop your own aging plan. And I'm really excited today that we have the opportunity to talk with somebody who is really kind of at the forefront of everything. As you have been paying attention to what we do in the Helping Seniors world, we've been working closer and closer with our good friends at AARP to try to see what we can do. We often say it takes a village for kids, but we feel like the more of us working together to make seniors' lives better, the better it's going to be. And I have the privilege of talking with State Director for AARP, Jeff Johnson. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Gary? Thanks so much for having me on.
What a pleasure. One of the things that I love is we sit on a sliver of the Atlantic coast, and we are lumped in oftentimes with the Orlando area. We get most of our TV from Orlando. We love to go to the theme parks in Orlando. We often use the airport in Orlando, but you know what? We live in Brevard County, and so one of the things that's so important for us is finding good local resources that will help us where we live. And one of the things that I've really noticed and appreciate that ARP has done is you guys have really made an effort to come into Brevard County and really start to help us do better with our seniors. 1 in 4 of us is over 65, Jeff.
Oh, you bet. And yeah, I totally agree with that. And certainly Brevard County and kind of that we tend to call it the Space Coast. So as you don't just lump it in with Orlando, but it's more than just Kennedy Space Center, obviously. Is it's such a diverse group of communities along there. And it's something that I think ARP, since its founding back in 1958, has tried to figure out how do we show up in a way that's nationwide, but also local. And so whether it's there have been a long history of really strong AARP chapters in the Brevard County area. There's still a really good one in Palm Bay, I know. But trying to connect with folks like you who are doing the work on the ground so we can connect you to kind of the national and state level information and efforts that are out there.
We were talking just before we actually launched the podcast. I said, one of the things that we have really enjoyed partnering together with ARP on is a program called Scam Jam, where we are dead serious about trying to keep our seniors and their life savings away from these horrible scams that seem to be proliferating at a just a nonstop pace. And what we talked about is that we've moved these Scam Jam programs throughout the county. We'll bring in somebody from law enforcement to share from that aspect. We'll bring in somebody from banking to talk about keeping our seniors safe with their accounts and things like that. We'll bring in people who talk about Medicare, Medicaid fraud. We'll have people come in and share on so many different. We have an elder law attorney who gives us a rundown of the top scams. But one of the most valuable portions is that you guys represent the AARP Fraud Watch Network. And so each time that we do a scam jam, the next one, by the way, if you're watching and taking notes, is going to be Friday, February 13th. It is 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Palm Bay at a lovely location. They're going to give us the clubhouse at Glenbrook Senior Living right there in Palm Bay. It's open to the public, absolutely free. Everybody who comes through this graduates with a little certificate. You get named a scam jammer. You get to raise your hand and say, I promise I'm going to try to keep myself safe and help those around me stay safe from scams. And then we do a shred truck event right after it. So you can bring all those documents that you need to safely dispose of. And then those get just shredded right before your eyes. So it's all safe. But my point coming back to this, Jeff, was that what we really want to do is keep our seniors focused on things that are going to help them navigate seniordom safely. And I love this opportunity where we get to partner on things like that. I wanted to ask you a little bit about some of the things that you guys see nationally, because you have the ability to peek over the horizon and see things that we need to think about nationally that will affect us where we live locally.
Carrie, and I think that Scam Jam is a great example because from AARP's perspective, we tend to think about those different dimensions of aging successfully in buckets of health, wealth, and self. So health, you think about staying healthy. You also think about health insurance, prescription drug costs, some of those things. Let's talk about wealth for a minute, because that's where we see the fraud issue really bubbling up. And it's something that we hear from our members, and it's something that we realize there are a lot of ways to address. So we do a lot of advocacy. I've worked with U.S. Senator Scott here in the state of Florida, and we do a lot at the state level around advocacy around fraud, and even at the local level. And we also have the Fraud Watch Network, which is a phenomenal online resource that helps people see what are the latest frauds and scams, help to stay one step ahead of the scammers. But those things are wonderful, even more so if there's a local connection. And so to be able to show up in Brevard County with the Scam Jam so that we can bring that information and education directly to people and help us learn from each other about what's going on in our community is kind of that perfect combination of things that really we think makes a big, big difference. Now, to pull the lens back a little bit, again, I said health, wealth. It's not only scams, it's things like retirement savings and social security and costs of things like housing and utilities that tend to be big issues. And then on the self side, some of this is around loneliness and isolation. And for ARP, and I know we'll talk about that because I know that's part and parcel of a lot of the work that you do. But I also would say, kind of, we see that as in conjunction with the how do we make our communities even more successful places to age by connecting each other, by connecting residents to each other, by making it easier to get around, or making sure that people know about the great opportunities to engage as volunteers or just go have fun somewhere that are out there, which I know is what you do through really a lot of the work that you have.
Yeah, I'm so excited because the partnership that we've been building together, it encompasses so many facets. I was just telling you before we began the podcast, I just literally finished up one of our training courses because we are now licensed through AARP's Senior Planet organization, and we are excited as we complete our training that we're going to be able to offer these free, absolutely free to the public classes that are going to help us do what they're always asking us to do. We talk about this. This is where so many people live these days on their smartphones. And even if you just want to make a call, your doctor's office is asking you to check in for the appointment. Your pharmacist wants you to see if the prescription's ready there. For crying out loud, they even want you, if you're going to travel, they want you to check in for your next flight on your phone. So you got to know and get that. And it really is empowering. And I love something they were teaching us in this class. They called it they view it from the point of an aging optimist. Like, yes, we can do this. We can learn how to get these things going, and that really empowers us as we go through the aging process to get the most value out of everything that we're connected to and staying safe.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say, we were talking about this beforehand. It is like two sides of the coin. So on the one hand, there's the challenge of staying safe from frauds and scams that are technology driven. On the other hand, especially if you have trouble getting out and about, or if you're just not sure where to go for information, the technology can be a huge advantage. And we see even, and this is something that Senior Planet, which is an AARP affiliate, has done a tremendous job of, is helping older adults figure out how to use technology to live out things that they've always wanted to do, whether it's virtually explore some vacation destination or place they've always wanted to see, or if it's learning how to create new things using some of the kind of art related technology that's out there so that you can become somebody who's not only just kind of scrolling through a phone or waiting, hanging up on spam callers over and over, but using technology to help make your life better too.
And there's so many aspects to this partnership that we've been able to enjoy with ARP because one of the things I'm particularly fond about that we're getting an opportunity to put together in our community this summer and again in the fall is a caregivers summit. Because one of the things that happens is, and this was new for me, Jeff, when I got involved in helping seniors literally 15 years ago, we were caregivers for our moms, my wife and I. And so we kind of had a front row seat for that. And you get a real appreciation for what the sacrifice is that people are going through to take care of their loved ones. And then each of us, when we're in that, we feel like we're the only one in the world that's going through it. And to that point, when we're able to put these things together, where caregivers get a chance to see what resources could help them and to learn about the process of caregiving. I always tell, kind of sometimes joke, they give you that lecture when you get on the airplane. They say you got to take your mask and make sure it's going to work for you before you put it on the ones around you. Because if you're the caregiver and you give out, then the person you're trying to help is in really serious trouble. So I think this is another area where collectively we are going to make a difference for the 250,000 plus seniors that call Brevard County home.
Agreed. And one of the things that I think AARP over the last probably 5 or 10 years has really focused on is supporting family caregivers because they tend to fall through the cracks. There's a lot of programming, there are a lot of programs that are designed to help older adults, which is great. We need them, we need to continue them, all of those things. But an older adult usually doesn't live on their own. It might be a spouse, it might be kids who come visit, it might be some other friend who is looking in on him. And if we're not helping them do a good job of caring for somebody who needs care, then we're just setting everybody up for failure. And so we realized again about 5, 10 years ago that this is an opportunity for AARP to provide some help and support for people who otherwise don't even know that what they're doing is called a thing as caregiving. Just figure I'm just being a good son. I'm just, being a good neighbor. And you are, but there is a lot that you can learn from what others have already done. And I have to tell you, for for as long as I've done this, the most often that I have somebody come up to me out of the blue and say AARP helped me is because they have a caregiving guide that they've gotten from an event or from our website or from 211 sometimes or somebody else that they say, I was taking care of mom and this was so helpful. And I can brag because I didn't write it, but it is an example of the sort of thing that we want to try to do to get good information in the hands of people, which most often happens when a friend refers something to a friend.
Everything that you said there is so important to me because what we talk about all the time when Joe, who had built up, I think I mentioned you, our founder was a retired Navy captain who built up the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation, established daycare centers for seniors called Joe's Clubs. And when I met him 15 years ago, as he was getting the Helping Seniors organization off the ground, he said, "Kerry, there's more work to be done for seniors." He said because some families are challenged with cognition issues, but he goes, every senior in their family is going to run into situations that they need a little help and a little guidance how to navigate. And so, one of the things that I really love is that it really becomes a community event because we all can help each other. You know something I don't know, and we all know things. And I remember talking to Joe early on. I said, "There's a lot of resources in Brevard County for seniors, but it does occur to me that if you don't know who to call when you need to call, that service might as well not exist. So bringing everybody together and partnering up like we're doing is so important. And then to your point, it's not all serious stuff too. I love the fact that last year we were able to do a couple of senior appreciation events, which honestly was just great socialization and party time for seniors. And and movies. We've done some things here where we work together on movies for grown-ups where ARP has made a theater available for seniors. Those are always well attended, and I love how, it really brings all aspects. It's kinda like I like what you said, self, wealth, and health, and it all kinda comes together under that banner. It's impressive.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think that one of the things we strive to recognize is that even the fun stuff has purpose, right? So we when we do those movie screenings, sometimes we will hear, "Hey, this is the first time I really gotten out of the house since my spouse passed, because I didn't really feel comfortable anywhere else, and I didn't know who to go with." But I was like, "This will be a bunch of people who are kind of like me, and it'll be fine." And they had a good time, and they keep coming back. And I think another good example of that you all have in Brevard County is the Walk with a Doc program. Is it just getting out going for a walk, but you're doing it with a medical professional there so that if you've got a question about something or they may have a tip about like something you can do to stay a little bit healthier to deal with that, nagging sore knee or whatever the case may be, it's an opportunity to get out, have fun, meet some other people, have a good time, and learn some things too. And when we can do all of those things at one time, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, we love Lydia Rivera, who's the RNP who leads the program, and we meet every second Friday of the month at Merritt Square Mall. And we just had ours this month with like literally 40, 45 people coming out and walking. And I love it because whenever you go to the doctor, the first thing the doctor is going to nag at you about is you got to get out and move some more. And this does three things. It gives you that exactly what the doctor ordered. It gives you a chance to literally socialize. You make new friends on these walks, and the third thing is you get to actually spend some time with an expert who can, "Hey, I'm thinking about this or what's going on with that," and get some really good thoughts that you can get in just a pleasant walk around. And here in Florida, when you can walk around indoors, it's
Right.
rain or shine. So if it's the summertime, it's too hot, you're in the air conditioning. It's a great program, Jeff.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. And Lydia's a powerhouse. She's on the national board for Walk with a Doc, and just a dynamo and a delight to be around. So I hope that the folks who are watching and listening to this get a chance to go out and participate in one of those because you'll find you have a lot of
Yeah, it is so good. There's so many good things to explore. I guess one of the things that I always remind people to do is make sure you get an AARP membership nationally. There are some good chapters here in Brevard County that make sense to connect with, particularly if you're in the South End and can join us at it's chapter 2622 right here in Palm Bay. And really, really love that group. They do so many fun activities, speaking of social activities and things like that. So you really gotta get involved, and, for me, I always used to joke, even though ARP sends you a membership card at 50 and says, "Guess what? Join the club." I'm like, "Give me all the discounts. Those work for me too."
Sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. I have plenty of friends who were just fussing at me about getting a ARP letter because they had turned 50. And then they took their child to go get a new cell phone or they're going to a hotel or whatever the case may be. And all of a sudden I thought, well, okay, maybe this isn't so bad. So which is great, right? Like I joke about that, but I also think, well, I guess the other thing I'd really like to leave with your listeners is that if they're looking for a way to connect beyond just showing up at an event and having fun, Jasmine Alfonso, who's our lead in that area, has built just this really incredible community of volunteers. And one of the things that I really love about the work that she does and the work the environment that she's created is she's got a group of folks who become such good friends, they'll go do stuff just for fun together, as well as go volunteer and give back to their community. And I think that's ideal. And so I know she's always welcoming new people into that group. And certainly if there's anybody who's listening who's looking around to try something new at the start of the year, this would be a great thing to try out.
Yeah, and I actually also wanna give a shout out to Karen Civitate, who's our lead Brevard AARP volunteer, because those 2 are like a dynamic duo. Every time I get to see Karen, she's like, "Guess what we're gonna do now?" It's just terrific, and you miss so much if you're not involved. I just wanna kinda, like, bring it to a close and ask you, Jeff, like, what would be a call to action if somebody wants to check out membership in AARP, or what would you invite somebody who maybe they've heard the name their whole life, but now it's time for them to take a step? What do you tell us we should do next?
So let me offer two things. So one would be to come to one of these things, right? We've talked about a scam jam, a caregivers conference, walk with a doc, the chapter, all of those things, great opportunities. The other thing is if you do join AARP, you want to make sure, honestly, that you are connected via email with us. And if you are like me, you don't want another email from anybody ever. However, for most of the things that we just outlined, the surest way of knowing what's going to happen is to go and get emails from AARP that include here's what's happening in your community. I'd say the third thing I would say if you're not sure about any of that stuff, go to arp.org/local and you can look and see what's in your community, what's in Brevard County, and see for yourself whether there are things there you want to engage with, and then know you can take the next step right there.
Yeah, thanks so much. One last little tiny sliver of this that I think we didn't touch on yet, but it's important, is ARP really represents us in all things governmental for seniors. I sit on a group locally called the Brevard Commission on Aging. And one of the things that we're always excited about is whenever we have an opportunity to make sure that our legislatures, whether they be national or whether they be state or whether they be local, are understanding the importance of seniors, both in terms of just the sheer numbers, but also in terms of the financial that it represents. I mean, these are people who paid taxes their whole life. I would advocate that as seniors, we deserve the respect and people to think about the things that will make seniors' journeys easier as we go along. And you guys are so the forefront of that.
Well, and if I can say one thing about that, Carrie, because one of the things that I have really appreciated about being able to do this work at AARP is that we are fiercely nonpartisan. We work with whoever is in office, wherever they are. We don't give money. And the only reason people listen to us is because they have constituents who they know are AARP members. And so, for instance, right now, as we're recording this, there are folks from Central Florida. I'm not positive there's somebody from Brevard, but I think there might be who are in Tallahassee walking the halls of the legislature, talking with them about issues that ARP thinks are really important for this legislative session. And we need more folks who can do that at the federal, state, and local level.
So well said. And that's one of the things that we're so excited. There are just so many chapters to the AARP book. It's just a great partnership, and we're excited about the opportunity to work together. Jeff, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to spend some time and share with us how AARP is making a difference. We love the partnership. We're committed to doing everything we can to make life better for our seniors, and really appreciate everything that you and your entire organization does to help make life better for seniors here in Brevard. Thanks for being here.
Henry, thank you so much for this opportunity. And thanks for all the work that you do on the ground, especially what you do with Jasmine and Karen. But honestly, I know that that's just a sliver of the work that you do to help seniors in Brevard County.
Well, thank you. So that's the time we have for Helping Seniors Update this time around. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon, but make sure you check out aarp.org and check out our website, helpingseniors.of because you'll have an opportunity to see when the schedule has some of these events that we've been talking about coming up, and we hope we'll see you there soon. Have a great day till then.